So there's a white nationalist, Richard Spencer, who I've actually interviewed on the program, and I encourage you to check that interview out. He's considered in some sense the founder of the alt-right, but he's definitely a white nationalist. He said that that is an appropriate term, among others, to be using for him when I interviewed him on the show a couple of years ago. And Spencer has now been, they're calling it outed, but I don't actually know that that's the right term. He's been, quote, outed by an audio tape where he uses all of the angry, vitriolic slurs that many white nationalists use about Jews and about black people. Now, you might be saying, well, why is it notable that a white nationalist was using those terms about Jews and black people? And the reason it's notable is precisely because Richard Spencer's entire thing was, yes, he's a white nationalist. Yes, he wants a white ethno-state where everyone who is not, as he calls it, of European origin leaves the country. But he's an educated, articulate, elegant, well-dressed guy who wants those things. And he wants those things to happen respectfully or something. I mean, within the context of how respectfully can you have an ethnic cleansing, right? But the idea is he doesn't scream at people. He doesn't use racial slurs. He wants it all to be peaceful and for everybody to agree that races are going to separate. Now, all along, and this is why I say that the term outed is maybe a bit of an exaggeration, anyone with any common sense probably guessed that behind closed doors, Richard Spencer was just your normal, average white supremacist racist. But he was able to kind of keep up the facade for some time. He would couch his views in history or sociology or science, as they claim now to be doing in a very popular and sometimes, unfortunately, effective way. But this is now all imploded. So it just so happens that the person who released this audio tape is another right-wing bomb thrower named Milo Yiannopoulos, who I actually emailed with about 6 or 8 weeks ago. Didn't go well, that email exchange. The emails had nothing to do with this. Milo has released the recording. It's bad. We're going to listen to it. Now, nothing surprising about this. In some superficial sense, this does contain shocking language. So probably best, as they say, to get the kids out of the room.
We are coming back here like a hundred times. I am so mad. I am so mad at these people. They don't do this to me. We're gonna ritualistically humiliate them. I am coming back here every weekend if I have to. Like, this is never over. I win. They lose. That's how the world works. Little kikes. They get ruled by people like me. Little octoroons. My ancestors enslaved those pieces of We're gonna win. I rule the world. Those pieces of get ruled by people like me. They look up and see a face like mine looking down at them. That's how the world works. We are gonna destroy this town.
So, of course, you know, talking about kikes and octoroons, slurs for Jews and black people. So there's really only one takeaway here, actually. I actually think that the analysis here is a pretty simple one. Richard Spencer is just like all the people that he claims to be different from, right? He says he's not some lowbrow racist. He's not some abrasive, uneducated yokel or whatever, right? Because he's the dapper white nationalist. Well, this sounds just like anybody else that you would imagine white nationalists would be in cahoots with. He plays the polite, well-dressed white nationalist who uses coded but arguably less threatening sounding terms like peaceful ethnic cleansing, a kindler, gentler sort of white nationalism, but it's all the same stuff. Now, why did Milo Yiannopoulos publish this? He says, quote, "As for why I published it, I have always publicly hated Spencer, and he has always publicly hated me. He thinks I'm a degenerate race-mixing kike, and I think he's a knuckle-dragging racist in a cheap suit. As you will recall, he was paid to sneak into a bar I was singing karaoke in and throw up Nazi salutes and film it without my knowledge. So it has been very satisfying for me to draw a crisp, bright red line between the two of us." So there it is. It's just different factions of the vile right. In this case, they are clashing with each other. Milo and Richard Spencer. But the lesson is you've got to pay attention to the substance and not the tone. Because if you go back to the interview that I did with Spencer, I believe it was back in 2017, or you look at anything that he's done, if you listened only to the substance of Spencer for the last however many years, this would not be even remotely surprising to you. You might still be taken aback by the crass nature of the language, sure, but the substance would not be even remotely surprising. The people who were surprised by this had sort of been lulled by the tone and the optics of Richard Spencer, and they weren't paying attention to the substance. That was a bad decision all along. And this is just confirmation of that. Nothing new, nothing unusual, nothing we haven't heard before, just surprising some people because they understood Richard Spencer to be more of a, quote, academic, educated white nationalist. Nothing new here, and we'll see if anything develops as far as the release of the actual tape and Milo Yiannopoulos' involvement, although it may be, another one of Milo's attempts to reinsert himself into the political dialogue, at least within some enclaves of the internet, after he was essentially completely pushed out after comments about, I'm trying to remember, is it technically pedophilia or was it hebephilia? Now I don't remember. In any case, comments that were they were not well received even by many of the factions of the right that had previously embraced Milo.